You open your banking app at midnight, type your age into one of those net worth calculators everyone shares, and the screen tells you the average person your age is worth $258,075. You have nowhere near that. So either you're failing at 30, or the number itself is lying to you. It's lying to you. Averages get dragged around by a small number of extremely wealthy people. Take America as a whole. The average household is worth just over $1 million. But the median, the actual midpoint where half of all households have more and half have less, is only $192,700. That's not a rounding error. That's more than a 5 times gap between average and normal. One number for the headline, one number for the person actually living it. The exact same trick happens in Britain. The wealthiest 10% of UK households hold £1,200,500 or more, about $1,599,000 converted. The least wealthy 10% hold £16,500 or less, about $21,900. And Britain's wealthiest 1% alone hold as much wealth as the entire bottom half of the country combined. Averages lie at the national level. They lie even harder once you zoom in on one specific age 30. So let's actually find the real number, not the average, the median, for someone in their early 30s in the US and in the UK. In America, the average net worth for someone in their early 30s is $258,075. The real median, the actual midpoint, is $88,631. That's a 66% haircut just from switching from average to median. One number for the headline, one number for the person actually living it. Zoom out further and the spread gets even wider. The bottom quarter of 30-somethings have $11,016 or less. The top quarter have $186,140 or more. And the top 10% are sitting on $538,750. The top 1% are in a different universe entirely, $2,636,882. One honest caveat here. The Federal Reserve itself only publishes the average and the median by age. That fuller percentile breakdown comes from an outside financial researcher crunching the Fed's own raw survey data, not from the Fed directly. So which bracket are you actually in? If you've got less than $11,016 saved, you're in the bottom quarter of your age group nationally, and that's a quarter of the whole country, not a personal failure. Between $11,016 and $88,631, you're below the midpoint but ahead of that bottom quarter. Cross $88,631 and you're officially above the median, ahead of half of everyone your age in the country. Past $186,140, you're in the top quarter for your age. And past $538,750, you're in the top 10% of 30-somethings nationally. One more cut for anyone who just turned 30 rather than being a few years into it. 25 to 29-year-olds in the U.S. have a median net worth of just $31,470, barely a third of the 30 to 34 bracket's median. The bottom quarter in that younger bracket has only $3,784. The top quarter in that same bracket has $130,606. And the top 10% in that bracket already have $296,830. So if you're 26 and measuring yourself against the 30 to 34 numbers, you're not behind, you're just early. Every pound figure from here gets converted using the exchange rate on July 26, 2026, where 1 pound equals about $1.33. One more honesty check, and this one is about the exchange rate itself, not the wealth data. In just the last 30 days, 1 pound has been worth anywhere between $1.32 and $1.35. So every converted dollar figure in this video is a snapshot from one moment, not a fixed law. But the underlying story that the average lies and the median tells the truth does not change with the exchange rate. Now flip to Britain, using the most detailed breakdown of UK wealth by age that exists. For adults aged 25 to 34, the average person, the mean, holds £60,500, about $80,600. The median, the real midpoint, is only £28,500, about $37,900. Two countries, one milestone birthday, and a more than 2 times gap between them. The bottom 10% of young British adults have £3,000 or less, about $4,000. The bottom quarter have £10,200, about $13,500. The top quarter have £76,500, about $101,900. And the top 10% hold 153,700 pounds, about $204,700. Run the same exercise on yourself, in pounds this time. Under 3,000 pounds, and you're in the bottom 10% of young adults nationally. Between 3,000 and 10,000, 200 pounds puts you in the bottom quarter. Cross 28,500 pounds, and you're above the median, ahead of half the country your age. Past 76,500 pounds, you're in the top quarter of young Britons. And past 153,700 pounds, you're in the top 10% nationally for your age. Here's the part nobody puts in the headline. It isn't just a bigger number in America, it's a completely different shape. In the US, the gap between the bottom quarter and the top 10% of 30-somethings is just under 49 times. In the UK, that same gap is about 15 times. Why so different? Because far more Americans in their early 30s are sitting on employer retirement accounts and startup equity that most people simply don't have access to yet. In Britain, the picture is more compressed because nearly every worker gets automatically enrolled into a workplace pension, small as those pensions still are at 30. Two honesty checks before we go further. First, that UK percentile data is from 2016 to 2018. The US numbers are from 2022. That's a 4 to 6 year gap. Second, the UK figures are one person's individual wealth. The US figures are the whole household's combined net worth. They are not measuring the exact same thing. The closest thing Britain has to an update, household wealth for 25 to 34-year-olds, measured the household way, was 109,800 pounds in the 2020 to 2022 survey. Converted, that's about $146,300, closer to the U.S. household median of $88,631, but still a different unit and a different survey year. Even the UK's own statisticians put an asterisk on this specific survey round while they work on improving how it's collected. The deeper reason: why does the median 30-something in Britain look stuck? Compare generations at the exact same age. People in their early 30s in 2020 to 2022 had only about 8,000 pounds more in real terms than people the same age had back in 2006 to 2008. People in their early 60s, over that same stretch, gained roughly 150,000 pounds. The wealth gap between an early 30s household and an early 60s household more than doubled, from 135,000 pounds to 310,000 pounds. One generation moved forward, the other barely moved at all. Zoom out one more time and ask where all this wealth actually sits. In Britain, 75% of all household wealth is tied up in just two things: property and pensions. In America, the Federal Reserve's own researchers note that for your families in the middle of the net worth ladder, housing dominates the balance sheet too. Which means for most people, at any age, in either country, net worth isn't a pile of spendable cash. It's a house you live in and a pension you can't touch for decades. What to actually do with this? First, stop benchmarking yourself against the average. Compare yourself to the median or the 25th percentile if you want a realistic floor. Second, if you're in the US, employer retirement accounts are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for people above the median at 30. Contributing enough to get the full employer match is the single highest leverage move on this whole chart. Third, if you're in the UK, workplace pension auto-enrollment already has you enrolled by default. The lever most people aren't pulling is checking their contribution rate is above the legal minimum, not whether they're enrolled at all. None of this is about hitting a number by a birthday. It's about knowing which number is real before you decide whether you're behind. So open that banking app again. The screen still says $258,075 is average for your age. But now you know that number was never really about you. The real midpoint, the one that actually describes a normal 30-year-old in either country, is a fraction of that. And now you know exactly where it sits. You're not behind. You were just being measured against a number nobody at the median was ever anywhere near. Not financial advice, just the real numbers.